The bar was loud that night, louder than usual, as rain beat against the old wooden roof like a warning nobody wanted to hear. Rusty Lantern Roadhouse was the kind of place where people hid from their problems in cheap beer and dim lights, a place where broken souls blended into the noise. But on this storm-soaked evening, everything changed the moment a group of bikers thundered in, their engines growling like beasts hungry for trouble. Leather jackets dripping with rain, steel chains clinking, boots pounding across the creaking floor, everyone felt the shift in the air. And standing behind the counter, trying to steady her trembling hands, was Mia, a young waitress with a quiet smile and a past she never spoke about. She had learned to survive by staying invisible. But fate doesn't let hidden pain stay hidden forever. Not when monsters walk into your life wearing familiar faces. One angry biker slammed his drink on the table and grabbed Mia by the arm, pulling her so hard her breath caught in her throat. And before anyone could react, he yanked the collar of her shirt and ripped it open, exposing something that made the entire bar fall into a stunned, suffocating silence. Beneath her torn shirt, stretching from her shoulder down to her ribs, was a massive scar, deep, jagged, and shaped like a branding iron. It wasn't the kind of scar left by an accident. It was the kind marked by cruelty. In the center of the scar was a burned symbol, a serpent coiled around a dagger. The mark of a notorious biker gang known across several states for their brutality, the Black Serpent Syndicate. People whispered that once the serpent marked you, you weren't a person anymore. You were property, and the worst part wasn't the scar itself, it was the look in Mia's eyes. The way the color drained from her face. The way she stepped back, pulling the ripped shirt around herself like a wounded animal trying to hide. That expression didn't belong to someone who had simply been hurt. It belonged to someone who had survived hell. The biker who ripped her shirt, Tank, known for his arrogance and careless violence, staggered back as if slapped by reality. His smirk vanished. His hands dropped to his sides. For the first time since he walked in, fear flickered in his eyes. The rest of the bar watched him, watched Mia, watched the leader of Tank's biker group, a tall man with a scar over his eyebrow and a silence that spoke louder than shouting. His name was Rourke, and as his eyes landed on Mia's scar, his entire face changed. Something hard cracked inside him. Something protective, something ancient, something that looked like the kind of rage reserved for injustice. Mia's breathing became shallow. The walls of the bar seemed to close in. She could hear voices from her past, taunts, orders, screams, echoing through her memories. She had escaped the Black Serpents 2 years ago, barely alive, running through the night like a ghost desperate to vanish. She had burned their clothes, changed her name, moved from town to town, never staying too long. Rusty Lantern had been the first place where she dared to breathe freely. The first place that felt almost safe. The scar on her chest was the only reminder of the nightmare she refused to remember. But tonight, hiding was no longer an option. The entire bar awaited Rourke's reaction. He walked forward slowly, his boots heavy on the soaked wooden floor, his jaw clenched so tightly the muscles twitched. He didn't look at Tank. He didn't shout. He didn't rage. He simply took off his leather jacket and draped it gently over Mia's shoulders. She flinched, but when she met his eyes, steady, serious, burning with unspoken promise, something inside her trembling heart softened. Rourke turned to Tank, his voice low, steady, and dangerous. He didn't need to raise it. Everyone felt the threat in every syllable. Tank lowered his head like a child caught doing something unforgivable. But Rourke didn't strike him. Not yet, because first, he needed answers. Rourke turned back to Mia and asked her, calmly, softly, if the serpents were still looking for her. Her hands shook as she nodded, her lips barely able to form the word yes. She explained, in a trembling whisper, that she had been held by the serpent leader, a man named Razor Cain, infamous for his cruelty. When she tried to escape, he burned his symbol onto her body, promising that no matter where she ran, she would always belong to him. A possession, a mark of humiliation. She escaped that night only because an old woman found her half-conscious on the roadside and took her to safety. But Razor Cain had been searching for her ever since. The bar fell silent, even the rain outside seemed to pause. Rourke's hands clenched into fists. He wasn't a saint, but he had a code. And his code didn't tolerate monsters hiding behind leather and power. He looked at Mia again, really looked, and saw the truth buried beneath her trembling breath, survival, courage, pain, and a desperate plea for protection she never dared to voice. His gang wasn't known for saving people. But something about Mia's story, something about her broken strength, ignited a fire in him. He turned to his men and said only one sentence. She's under our protection now. Those words changed everything. From that night on, Rourke's gang stayed close, watching every shadow, every stranger, every noise outside the bar. They weren't letting any serpent near her. But word travels fast in the biker underworld. Razor Kane eventually learned where Mia had run. And when he came for her, bringing the unforgiving wrath of the Black Serpents, Rourke and his men stood like a wall of steel between her and the ghosts of her past. The confrontation that followed wasn't just a fight. It was a war of two worlds. One ruled by cruelty, the other fueled by redemption. And when the dust settled, when the rain finally stopped, when Mia realized she was no longer a hunted woman, the whole bar witnessed a moment so powerful it silenced every fear. Mia stood tall, tears glistening, not in terror, but relief. For the first time, she was free. Free from Razor, free from the serpents, free from the shadows that marked her. And Rourke, he looked at her with a pride she had never tasted before. He didn't see a scar. He saw survival. That night, the entire bar was frozen not by fear, but by awe.